says Jesus was inconvenienced in order for manifestation to take place. And now write this down, brothers and sisters. First thing I want to leave with you today, manifestation brings with it meaningful inconveniences. See, some of us, we want to get the manifestation, but we don't want to be inconvenienced. We don't want to be stretched. We don't want to have our plans interrupted. We don't want to have our schedule set off to the side. But let me tell you something. Some of the manifestation that's going to happen in your life will not happen according to your set schedule. And let me just give you a portrait of inconveniences. Inconveniences will require sacrifice. And sacrifice means you got to give up or go without to accomplish a greater good. I'm so glad that we came from a people who knew how to sacrifice. Because if it had not been for that sacrifice, some of us would have never gone to college. Some of us would have never gotten the houses. Some of us would have never gone to the places that we've gone to. Many of us can testify it was because of mama, daddy, grandmama, granddaddy's sacrifice, mother so-and-so sacrifice, deacon so-and-so sacrifice, that they planted the seed that we may be able to go and do and to become who we are today. And it's going to take a sacrifice, saints of God, because you have to be willing to do what others are unwilling to do. Some of us, we want manifestation, but we want to do what everybody else is doing. There's nothing wrong with doing what others are unwilling to do. Sometimes you got to get up earlier. How many folk know what I'm talking about? Sometimes you have to adjust your clock. You have to adjust your schedule. There's some people who want a whole lot of stuff, but they're not willing to do what it takes. How many folks over here know what I'm talking about? You have to be willing to do what others are unwilling to do, which also means you got to work harder. Oh, somebody better talk back to me in this church today. You got to work harder. And sometimes you've got to study when everybody else is going to the party. Oh, y'all better talk to me now. But also, you got to work longer sometimes. And even if you don't have to work longer, sometimes you've got to work stronger than others, which means you've got to use your brain and think when others aren't thinking. And you've got to use your creativity. Let me tell you something. Sometimes working longer and stronger means that you have to be willing to do something and take a risk that nobody else is doing, knowing that it is you who can make your mark. Let me say something. I have to make a culturally specific statement today. The majority of people under the sound of my voice have my skin color. Let me say something to us today. Stop telling our children what they can't do just because you don't see a lot of us doing it. Oh, y'all not hearing it. See, y'all playing with this thing. Just because you don't see a lot of black folk in certain fields doesn't mean that that child cannot make their mark. Just because I had a young man telling me that he wanted to be a NASCAR driver, but his mama said there wasn't no black folk driver. I said, go on and drive. At least we'll know who you are. We've got to stop boxing our children in by some felonious thought of what it means to be black. We are more than just hip hop. We are more than just gangster rap. We have people singing classical music and country music. There's some singing rap. There's some singing R&B. There's some who are scientists. There's some who are agriculturists. Stop telling our children what they can't be just because you ain't seen it. So I'm here to declare and decree in your presence, you ain't seen the best yet. Am I talking right in here? Y'all better talk back to me. I know I'm talking right in this church today. But then it also requires delayed gratification. Oh, see, that's what gets some of us in trouble today. We want it when we want it. And some of us make a big old mess trying to get it. But see, one of the most poignant quotes out of a more recent movie that has stuck with me was in The Great Debaters, and the debaters were standing and they kept declaring, we do what we have to do so that we can do what we want to do. Somebody in here knows about that principle. See, there are those in here who worked 5, 6, 7, 10 years longer than what you had to work. But see, what other folks didn't know what you were doing, you were setting yourself up so that you didn't have to go back to work unless you wanted to go back to work. See, there's a difference between retiring and going back to work because you just want to go to work. How many folk know what I'm talking about? And some of us know what it's like to keep toiling in the valley and delaying gratification, because when our time of refreshment comes, we don't want nothing to hinder our refreshment. How many folk know what I'm talking about over here?